day. Well, I got nothing to say. It was so beautiful before today. Hi again, guys. Welcome back to TokeTalks with Tia. This is now episode 5. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about my personal experience with working in the cannabis industry. And we're going to talk about that a lot, but right now we're going to go a little bit backwards. And we're going to talk about what happened towards the end. I was asked earlier today to talk about it, and I've been wanting to talk about this for a little bit now. And I've talked about this obviously with people that I'm close with, but I have not come out in the open and talked about it. So, flashback to about last year around 4/20, I gotten an email about a dispensary that's been opened up around near me that was looking to hire budtenders, and kind of just a shot in the dark. I applied for it. We're gonna call this place Miseryville because that's all it really is, and I can't actually name the real place because I'll get sued. So anyway, Miseryville. I started working there. I'd been there for about a year, and I worked really hard, and I loved working there. For the most part, I didn't like who I was working for, but I loved the idea, and I loved helping patients, not just medical patients, but even the recreational users, like finding what actually would help them and make their high better. I was the go-to for that, and I loved it. That was my favorite part of the job. At the end of the day, was making people smile and handing them their bag and watching them go get high for the rest of the day. I mean, I wouldn't actually be able to see them get high, but I know how happy they're going to be when they do, so. But yeah, what I kind of want to talk about with you guys, mentioning it, like why I am anyway, is, so about a few months back, flash forward to this April of this year, I was not doing very well at all, and there's a lot of things that went on that month that I don't want to share about and talk about right now, probably at all, with you guys. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to. It's way too personal for me. But it was a lot of mental health stuff going on, and the death of losing my boyfriend in November was a lot to deal with, let alone what was going on in April. So I was just losing my marbles, and I just had some severe surgery in my mouth. I'd gotten sick from it also. So I was not well, I could not work, and my work was just harassing me constantly, like, hey, you need to come in, hey, you can't miss this shift, da da da. I tried to swap shifts with people. They actually removed my access, so I could not share there's a button on there that you could click, and you could send it to a different coworker so that you didn't have to pick up a shift. That was removed, so I had no access to doing that. And I was told that I had to come into work. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. So it was about April, I forget the exact date. I'd have to go back into my phone, but I want to say around the 4th or the 5th, something like that. It was after Easter. I know that. Because I dealt with some shit on Easter Day that was awful, and I was not able to work, which they were not happy about, but fuck them. I don't need to give you a reason when I'm dealing with something like that, and especially when I told them what happened, I don't need to give you further explanation on what happened. I do not, actually. But around there, I texted my boss. We're going to call him Dickhead. So I texted him. He's my general manager, my main boss, one of the hiring managers that hired me. One of the guys I met in my first interviews. One of my superiors, somebody I looked up to, somebody I thought that I could trust up until this moment. I had sent him a text saying, hey, can we speak privately today? I had fully intended on letting him know that I needed to take some time off of work and I needed to go get my head right. I was not well. I needed to probably go back to the hospital, which I have every right to do legally, which I wasn't aware of till now. But anyway, he says, sure, I'll call you back. About an hour later, he calls me back, and me answering it thinking it would be a private phone call. It was not. It was a phone call between me, him, and one of my other managers, an assistant manager, who was friends with my ex, a guy that I had been seeing who was my manager that worked there. And they were all aware of it also, by the way. That I'll talk about a different episode. This one, I don't think I'll be able to talk about that fully, or feel like going into that fully. But yes, I was seeing my boss, and my main manager, the one that had messaged me, Dickhead, knew about it. And so, of course, since then, they had treated me very differently. Especially after me and him, I had ended things, and he was not taking it very well. People were treating me very differently there, and I felt very uncomfortable. So that also was not helping my mental health. So I told him, even on the phone, I felt uncomfortable with her being on the phone. Her, we're going to call Raquel. Raquel was nice to me at first, and I really liked Raquel. But once me and Douchebag, we're going to call Douchebag, the guy that I was seeing, broke up, she treated me very differently because he and her were very close. And I don't understand why she treated me that way, but it just is what it is. I was having my lunches thrown away. People were harassing me, talking shit about me right next to me even, and didn't even care that I was right there. I felt very uncomfortable, and I wanted to talk to him about all that stuff, but at that moment I was not going to. I just wanted to get some time off of work and get right in my mindset, and just get healthy, because I wasn't doing well. I'd lost a lot of weight, and my infection in my mouth was really bad, and I was really sick. And being as sick as I was, I shouldn't have even been working. I had doctor's notes. I told them I could not work, and they still harassed me to come in. I could prove all of this, by the way. It was horrible. It was a very hard time for me. With also, that job was the only source of income I had. It was the only way out of my toxic household I had. I really had no choice but to stay there, even though I wanted to leave for a very long time, especially after my boyfriend had died. So while we're on the phone together, he immediately, before I can even talk about what I wanted to, he brings up the fact that I have not been 100% at work and that I need to be. Tells me that I have to be on time for my shift, my upcoming one, which was at 1:30, which they always usually were, 1:30 to 9:30. I was closing shift mostly because I really can't do mornings. I was not a morning person. I worked about one morning shift a week, and that's just because I think they had to rotate shifts. I never liked morning shifts. So I'm choking up on the phone. I don't really want to talk about it, but I have to tell them, I can't work. I really couldn't do it, given what was going on at the time. I'm not getting into it 100%, but I was assaulted in April, that same week that my bosses asked me to come to work. A few months before that, my boyfriend died and killed himself. I could not come to work. I really couldn't do it. I don't know if you all listening could do it, but I really couldn't. I had only taken 3 days off after he had died, and then went right back to work. And then a few months later, I lost my shit. And given what I'd seen and gone through, it makes sense that I lost my shit. And I feel like I held it together for a long fucking time. And I even held it together towards the end, too. Even when I did lose my shit, I made sure that no customers had ever seen me lose it. It was all out back or off the premises. So I don't think I deserved any of what had happened. Nobody does, honestly. But to continue what had happened, we're on the phone. She's in the background, not really speaking, but listening. And he's telling me that I need to be 100% at work. And I said that I can't. Right now I'm not doing well. I need to go get help. I'm not feeling right. And he said, well, your job won't be protected if you do. He said that I can't keep crying out back in the bathroom, that I need to be 100%. Now, I cried in the bathroom because that's the only place I can go to off camera, because everything in the building is all on camera, and I'd like to be in private. When something triggers me, when I'm dealing with grieving, I need to cry sometimes. So I cry for a few minutes and go right back to work and pretend nothing ever happened. And I guess that was a huge problem for them. On top of the fact that I had ulcerative colitis. I have ulcerative colitis, It doesn't just go away. I have a disease, so I have to go to the bathroom a lot more than normal people, and I was told that I can't. That also made me feel really anxious and depressed that my boss is now shitting on me for my work ethic, that I thought I was doing so well. Apparently not to them, even though I was for months making them racks and racks of money. I was number 1 budtender, number 2 budtender for months and months. I was making them so much money. I was shouted out many times in personal meetings between, sorry, I couldn't think of the word, meetings between the CEOs and the managers. The only reason I know about that is because I was seeing my manager. So that's awful, but that wasn't the reason I was seeing him anyway. We were in a relationship. So that I'll talk about in another episode. If anyone wants me to talk about it, or I feel like talking about it, I will. But right now, I don't want to. He's a piece of shit. No point in talking about it. At least at this present time. I don't feel like it. So anyway, I'm talking to my boss, and I break down on the phone. I start crying. I apologize that I haven't been 100%. I tell him that I'll be there. I wasn't prepared to go to my next shift. I needed to get help, but I told him I'd be there. And I was currently dealing with issues with my landlord and my apartment, and I had other things going on that were very important and traumatic that I had to deal with at the same time. So I got off the phone with him, dealt with that, and trigger warning, guys, this is probably going to get a little bit dark. I'm not saying like crazy, but I had some bad thoughts and I wanted to hurt myself, and I tried to right after I got off the phone, and right before I even did it, I was like, I can't do this. After my boyfriend had died, his name was Nick. He was very, very special to me. He will always be in a whole special place in my heart. He was my best friend. He will always be my best friend. Anyway, him I'll talk about another episode. Sorry, I'm getting a little upset thinking about it. But after him harming himself, I couldn't let myself do it. I needed to get help. So I went to the hospital and I got checked out. I dealt with all that, and I was going to be seeing someone and needed to get more extended help outside of that, and be outpatient at a hospital that I've been wanting to do for a while and needed to do. I don't like inpatient, and if you don't know the difference between outpatient and inpatient, inpatient means that you'll be staying in the hospital, you'll be sleeping there. Outpatient means you'll be going there throughout the day. You come and you leave at the end of the day. So it's kind of like not classes, but like I wouldn't really know exactly. I don't know exactly what you call it, but you go there during the day. It's like it's a day program. That's what you would call it. Exactly. So I needed to be able to do that, and I knew my work would not let me get 2 weeks off to do that. So the next day, I planned on going to work and telling them everything and taking my time off, but I went to check my scheduling, which is the app that everyone that I work with can switch shifts and everything that I was talking about earlier. Again, my button was removed. I could not switch. I don't know if I had mentioned it earlier. I think I didn't, but if I did, we have an app where we can switch shifts with each other, and my boss had revoked my access twice, so I could not give any of my coworkers my shifts. I was forced to come in, even though I was hospitalized. Now, that day before, when I told you I was in the hospital, my boss, that one dickhead, was messaging me. He messaged me 5 times, 4 or 5 times. I'm not 100% confident on the number, but he messaged me multiple times throughout the night, and it was actually even past closing, asking me what I was going to be, if I'll be there for my shift tomorrow, which is ridiculous. Knowing that I was in the hospital, my mother had called my work and told them I wasn't going to be able to come in, told them why I couldn't come in, so they knew why I wasn't there, and that I wouldn't be there, and still continued to harass me. So the next day I decided I cannot do this anymore. It's not worth the money. I can't take this. I was puking every day before I went into work and crying. I couldn't do it. Even while I was at work, I would get sick. I just could not do it anymore. And the harassment that I was dealing with, having to deal with my ex right next to me, controlling my every move, because he was my manager. He could pick where I was and where I would be at all day. And of course, he'd put me right fucking next to him. So it was a hard time for me. So I walked in there 2 hours before my next shift. I walked in. I had taken a bag and packed everything in my locker. Went up to my managers and said, is dickhead and da-da-da-da here? Because da-da-da-da, he doesn't deserve a fucking name, is my other manager who had originally hired me also. There are 2 of them, my GMs. He was great. I really respected him. I admired him. Even had a tiny little crush on him when I first got hired. Obviously not anymore, and certainly not after I started working with him. He was way too condescending and narcissistic. But he was funny, and I liked being in his presence. But he did not have a backbone, still doesn't, will not stand up for what's right, and didn't contact me after I left. And when I asked him to give me, if he could please give me a good reference when I go somewhere else, and told him what had happened, he didn't have anything to say. So, da-da-da-da. Anyway. I'd taken everything out of my locker and told my assistant manager, Raquel, who was there, the one that was on the phone call the day before. I told her to tell my manager, dickhead, that I'm leaving. I quit. I can't give my 2 weeks because I'll be in a hospital. I wanted to, but they're not here and they don't care, so I'm out. And I was very upset. I'd thrown I don't know why I said thrown. I handed my badge over, tossed it away. I was like, I'm done with this, and packed everything up and left, and blasted my music. And me and my best friend, who had just recently left her toxic job also, shout out to her also, she's going to be getting married soon, so excited for her. But yeah, we both just packed up and left. I'll be talking about more stuff about that in the next episode, but I'm running out of time on this one. So thank you guys for listening. This is TokeTalks with Tia, episode 5? Yeah, 5. I had to think about that for a second. I hope you guys have a good Friday, and I will be talking to you guys soon. Have a great day.